Today I'm showing the computer screen because we are going to look at stuff on the screen. So why the disappointed face? Just look at my previous video. That was the video I posted the last time. And as you can see, the Cube Audio driver, the speaker with the Cube Audio driver, the void pipe is down in my main system, the living room, and not a single question came to this video. And János, how does it sound in your main system? I'm just disappointed. So actually today I'm not going to answer the question because it was not asked. So what I'm going to do is that I have received tons of wonderful comments, and I'm going to go through them, and I can't promise that I can go through all, because you see it's just like scrolling down and down and down. It just, the comments just they just don't stop, and all of you commented really valuable things, and lots of things for discussion, and very relevant stuff. So it's not the usual comments when I have like 50% of the comments relevant to the video and 50% asking about something completely different. So as you see, I have pinned Lou's comment over there because there was that Diana Kroll reference that I made, and Thomas made it as well. That how when you listen to Diana Kroll through those speakers, the Lee Song speakers, it feels like Diana Kroll is giving you a lap dance. And now Lou asked, answered in the feedback that he had an experience when he heard Diana Kroll no more than 10 feet away from her piano. And that's, I think, as close as we can get to Thomas's dream. And as we read, Lou's comment is that sitting in near field, it sounded way better than any stereo I have ever heard, by far, no matter who built it. And guys, I can comment that Lou, he has heard the very best, and he is competent and proficient to just basically take the very best to the next level, and he is that audiophile whom I know of who has by far the most sophisticated audio system, and I hope that one day I can build something like his system. So his reference, his opinion, we can give very serious weight to it, and he shared a very amazing story about what happened there. Just read it, it's just fantastic. And Victor Larson's comment: I had the chance to demo a pair of Cube Audio Nanophar Mini a few weeks ago, and I have to say they sound really impressive. So why did he comment that? Because these are Cube Audio drivers, so it's the same company, and what they do is that they offer loudspeakers. Like you can build, you can buy the loudspeakers, and that he referenced here is the Nanophar Mini, is one of those speakers that you can buy, but you can also buy just the driver, and then you can build either your cabinet, you can go ahead design your own cabinet for it, or they also have plans for 3 different cabinets that they recommend based on the size of your room. And so basically what he is saying is reporting an experience similar to mine, because he's listening to Cube Audio drivers, and he says that they sounded really impressive. Very likely I will buy a pair sometime in the future. And I have never considered my own Zingali horn speakers to sound nasal or anything like that, but when hearing the Nanophar Mini, let's go, listening to music I'm very familiar with, the first thing I was struck by how natural and neutral they sounded with my Leben amplifier. And that's my experience as well, that these Cube Audio drivers, they sound very neutral and very natural. And when we scroll down, we will find a lot of comments about Whizzer cones. So people who try out single driver speakers and they don't like them, that's because of the distortions that Whizzer cones can generate. And what Victor is reporting here is that he does not hear that from Cube Audio speaker. And I also report the same thing, that with the FC8, this is the second generation FC8, in my void pipe, I can't hear any trace to a Whizzer cone sound. And I heard like dozens of full range drivers or single drivers with Whizzer cones. So I think maybe I can state that I can fairly well pick up what the contribution of the Whizzer cone is to the sound. And what I heard from various drivers is that some have extreme effect on the sound, some Whizzer cones, like for example some louder drivers, there the Whizzer cone just absolutely dominates the sound. And there are other speakers, drivers, where the contribution of the Whizzer cone is just absolutely minimal. You can barely hear what it's doing, and it's more like an EQ to the sound, more like a touch of personality, but not that traditional Whizzer cone type distortion. And with the FC8, there's none of that, zero. And it doesn't matter you sit on axis or you sit off axis, your ear is at the level of the Whizzer cone, higher, lower, you sit between the speakers, anywhere in the room, you sit on the floor. There's not a position in the room where I can pick up any Whizzer cone artifacts. And I suspect that's due to the geometry of the Whizzer cone. As you see, it's a giant of a Whizzer cone. So when you look at other single drivers, like for example, magic of high tech, then as you see here, this is another example. That's the Fostex FE204. That's actually the driver that I replaced with the Cube Audio FC8, and they are the same diameter, same basket size. And here you see that the Whizzer cone is kind of small, and then there's a big main cone. And when you look at the Cube Audio driver, you see that the Whizzer cone is just gigantic compared to that small Whizzer cone that we just have seen. It went out of focus. So where was I? Yeah, Whizzer cones. So now, before I continue going to other comments, let's have a look at Whizzer cones, because when we scroll down, we will see that there's a lot of comments asking about Whizzer cones. And I just want to show you what Whizzer cone distortion looks like, what is happening with Whizzer cones, and why you can hate Whizzer cones when they are not integrated properly. What is it that they exactly do to the sound? So let's have a look at the at this driver that I just shown you here, the Fostex FE204. So this one, actually, I have lived with it for 20 years, and I have heard them in my void pipe in about a dozen rooms, them being very, very different acoustically one from the other. And I heard these speakers with maybe, I don't know, 100 different systems. So I can say that I have a pretty good impression of what they are capable of, and when I hear something with them, Now I have a vast experience base, whether what I heard was due to the specific amplifier source or the room or the speaker itself, which was the only commonality between all of them. And what I can say is that in the case of the speaker, I have noticed that the Whizzer cone was an issue only when there were serious issues with the room or the system, and when these speakers with these drivers were placed in rooms that had balanced acoustics, very nice rooms with very high level equipment driving them, then there was zero, and I'm underscoring zero artifacts that I could or anyone could attribute to Whizzer cones. So whatever the Whizzer cone nest is, we would think they are non-existent with this driver when used in a room that doesn't have problems on its own and equipment that doesn't have problems on its own. So based on these experiences, I can say that this type of Whizzer cone used in the Fostex FE204 and a number of the 8-inch Fostex drivers, it is only a problem when your equipment has problems and it's magnifying those issues. So when your system and room doesn't have issues, then this Whizzer cone is acoustically completely transparent, and it's almost as if there's no double cone scenario, there's no Whizzer cone here. So let's look at the frequency response of this driver. How can we tell that this is a well integrated Whizzer cone? We can tell that looking at the response here, before the base starts fall off from here to here, you see it's like a flat line, and there's some squiggles up and down, a few dB up and down, but it's a flat line, and we don't have a nice big peak here, which would be the Whizzer cone's fault when it's not well integrated. So now let me just look for an example where the Whizzer cone is not integrated well. So here, this is Audio Nirvana Super 8 ferrite. And here what we see is we have a similar size Whizzer cone and also an 8-inch driver ferrite magnet, just the same as in the Fostex we've seen before. But the little difference between them is that the Whizzer cone has a tiny bit different size and it has a phase plug in the middle, while the Fostex didn't have a phase plug. And let me just make a drawing, because there's one part in it that was not visible. So the Fostex's Whizzer cone, it actually looked like this. So the top of it actually, it flares out. So there's like, this is like a 2 millimeter flare on both sides for the Fostex, the FE204. It doesn't draw. And the Audio Nirvana 8-inch, there the Whizzer cone is straight. So there's no little flare, no little band over there. Let me just delete that. This can do deletion. Oh, you see? It deleted. Wow, perfect. So otherwise, they are the exact same size and shape Whizzer cones, just the Fostex has this little tiny flare at the end. So what it does is that when we have the main cone under it, this is the main cone under the Whizzer cone, and they are glued together and they are moved by the same voice coil. So that's what a Whizzer cone is that an extra tiny cone attached to a bigger cone. And the rationale for that is that the bigger cone, as we try to reproduce low frequencies, it is okay with that. But when we go for higher frequencies, then what starts happening is that the big cone starts to have breakup mode. So basically, You don't see it with your eyes, but if we shoot it with a camera, a high-speed camera, and slow it down, we will see that it's not straight anymore, but it starts to flex around. Of course, it doesn't flex that much. It just flexes maybe. I can't draw my skills. Let me see. Just maybe like this much. You see those two lines, maybe a millimeter, 2 millimeter, but actually the flexing is really minimal, like kind of like that, small flexing. And how much it flexes, what's the frequency of the flexing, etc. It depends on the actual frequency and the SPL playing. And however, what happens is because of these, which we are called breakup modes, it will smear the high frequencies. So high frequencies won't be able to be reproduced. So if you have an 8-inch driver, it can still reproduce up to 15 kilohertz or so with the main cone, but above like 16 kilohertz, 20 kilohertz, nothing is coming from here because it's just breaking up by that time. So the solution to have the high extension is to add this Whizzer cone, and this is as you see, it also has a different geometry, so it's not open like the base cone, but it's really a sharp V, and that gives it additional mechanical stability so that it's capable of reproducing those high frequency sounds with stability without break up. So this is one difference, that here we have these things there, and what these little flares do is whatever breakup modes at high frequency are happening, they are pushed away to the side. So that high frequency energy that is coming from the breakup is shunted to the side, and you are not getting it directly on axis. And here all those cone breakup stuff and this piece which is generated here, you see there's like this really sharp angle, that sharp nuke there, and that's a source of very high frequency energy. So, and now that can spread in all of these directions out there, right? And here this limits the spread of that very high energy, and here there's no limit to that. So we are getting additional high frequency pressure waves generated by there. And here, because it's generated there and not by the cone, we are getting clear high energy production. And another thing, we have the bullet plug, the phase plug here in the center. And as you see for the phase plug here, and here, that's like it's a high pressure wave generation zone. So basically, instead of this big region being the source of the sound and projecting it out, here these narrow valleys are the origination point for sound, and the bullet plus the Whizzer cone, the proximity of them acts as a horn. So basically we are horn loading the high frequencies, and that's why, of course, we are horn loading them here too as well, but here the mouth of the horn is much wider. Here the mouth is really narrower, and what it does is that it pushes much higher frequencies, so it's able to generate much higher. So here the lowest, the highest frequency that it can generate is much lower compared to here, because the diameter here where the sound starts, it's really tiny, and here it's like 20 millimeters. So let's just go back here. And as you see, we can see that on the SPL. So what we have seen before, sorry, I kicked the stand, with the Fostex was that basically from like 500 hertz or so up, it was a straight line for the pan for the frequency range. Can we go back? Where it was? Here. You see? It's a straight line from 300 hertz to 12 kilohertz. You see, I can put my pen on it, and it's covering a straight line. Let's go back here, And here actually the zone starts from higher up, about 500 hertz, and I can cover only to here, what's that, like 8 kilohertz. So 500 hertz to 8 kilohertz I can cover down, and up above 8 kilohertz there's a monstrous peak. And look how far it goes up. It hits 110 dB at around, what's that, 12 kilohertz, something like that, 14, 13. So basically what we have is these things. That thing here, that's generated by the Whizzer cone. And if you don't like what a Whizzer cone does to the sound, then you will hate these speakers. However, it doesn't mean that these drivers are bad, but it means that you have to choose them for your application, which means that if you have difficulty hearing above 10 kilohertz, maybe even above 8 kilohertz, these will be lifesavers for you, and they will allow you to hear the highs again. So if you can't find speakers that can play, that have airy sound to you, and you have diagnosed hearing loss, then this is for you to fix. Because when you have diagnosed hearing loss, it doesn't mean usually that your ear is totally bust. It just means that the sensitivity of the ear above at the high frequencies is just so much lower that you require much higher levels. And in this case, you will hear those frequencies quite a bit better than if it would be flat, you would hear nothing. Also, another case for that, if your room is overdampened, then by pumping in additional high frequencies, you will be able to hear those high frequencies in your room. However, if you have a lively room, then this would make that completely unlistenable, and that's when you will form the idea and the opinion that a Whizzer cone is completely trash, while the thing is that it does not fit your room and your system or your hearing. So let's see. So this was the Super 8 of Audio Nirvana. However, not all Audio Nirvana drivers are like that. So let's look at their 15-inch single driver speaker, full range speaker unit, the Super 15 ferrite. And when we look here, now you see here we do not have that. So before that extra region was up here, and now we see the complete opposite of that. We see a drop above 10 kilohertz. It drops up quite a bit, and before that is relatively flat-ish, not as flat nearly as the Fostex, and we still have a zone, you see, that starts around 600 hertz up to 4.55 kilohertz, which is prominent. So you have a couple extra dB there. So it means that this driver will have more of a mid-range. So it will be centered on the mid-range, but it won't have that lower highs, high frequency additional energy to it. So this will not sound like overbearing speakers to you. And what this graph doesn't say, it really shows as if the bass is like really falling off. However, it has a 15-inch cone, and when you put it in a cabinet, what 15-inch cones do is they produce mid-bass, and that's going to really change it up quite a bit. And even though on the figure it looks like it doesn't have any mid-bass or any deep bass, in real life it will have a pretty nice mid-bass to it. So what else? Do I wanted to show something additional? Maybe not now. But as you see, even within models, that I've shown you two Audio Nirvana drivers, they are just the exact opposite for high frequencies in there for the Whizzer cones. And And eventually, what else? What else? What else? Oh my God, we are already at 24 minutes. So right now, what I'm saying is that please like and subscribe. And why does it stop? So my PowerPoint somehow, when I hit the last slide, it always wants to quit. Bill Gates should have some feedback about that. So thank you for tuning in. Have an awesome day. Bye bye.